Luka Doncic may be very early into his NBA career, but he's already shown the entire NBA world that he's a superstar in the making. Some would even argue that he already is a superstar, given how fantastic he's played during his time in the league. Despite his young age, Doncic plays the game with a tough attitude and has the leadership and mentality of a 10-year veteran. In this video, we'll be going over the time where Marcus Morris Sr. tried to intentionally hurt Doncic right in the middle of a postseason game against the Mavericks. But be sure to stick around until the end of the video to catch up on a few other fights that Doncic has had throughout his career. The fight with Morris took place just a little while ago in the NBA bubble. The Dallas Mavericks were up against the Los Angeles Clippers in the first round of the postseason when things started to get a little chippy. Marcus Morris Sr. quite literally slapped Doncic on the head once he got past him on a drive to the rim. The slap ended up knocking Luka to the ground pretty hard. The referee was holding back and talking to Morris about the foul, while Boban Marjanovic had the very tough task of grabbing onto Doncic and trying to hold him back. Because Luka charged up so quickly, Boban ended up having his head right in between his arm and his torso. Honestly, it seemed like he was putting him in an accidental chokehold just to try to keep his friend out of trouble. Though the real reason Luka was so upset with the hard foul was because of Morris's history of intentionally injuring players to help his team win the game. Just a little bit earlier in the same playoff series, Doncic went to grab an inbound pass while Morris ran behind him and seemingly stepped right on his ankle. The step ended up hurting his ankle quite a bit, but he was thankfully still able to compete throughout the rest of the series. But it didn't stop fans from creating a ton of speculation about the incident, as many thought that it was in fact intentional. Morris obviously denied those rumors, and Luka even backed him up, saying he didn't think it was intentional. However, after getting slapped in the head intentionally just a few games later, his opinions changed a little bit. Morris was handed a flagrant foul and was subsequently ejected for his actions. Luka took the post-game interview as an opportunity to voice his disdain for the play, saying how terrible it was for basketball.
Have you seen the replay, and do you think he did that on purpose?
No, I don't want to talk to him, He's just saying a lot of bad stuff to me all the game,
Morris took his chance to respond to Luka's quote on an Instagram post, and all he said was, "Cry me a river, clips in 6. I think it's very safe to say these two aren't going to like each other for quite a while, and there could possibly be even more beef between the two of them in the future. And guess what? The Clippers had another player start some beef with Luka during that exact same series. It's almost like they were sending everybody they had to just annoy him and try to get him ejected. This fight was against Montrezl Harrell and ended up being a little bit different than other notable altercations in the NBA. Harrell was backing down two Dallas defenders in the post and was able to send Doncic back quite a bit with a hard post-up. He then sank the layup to give his team a clutch basket. And while he was running back to play defense, the cameras caught him yelling, "Bitch-ass white boy" towards Doncic. That wasn't all either. 2 possessions after those comments, Dallas missed a shot and the players were running down to the other end to get in their spots. Harrell and Doncic accidentally got tangled up, with Harrell falling down to the floor. Referees whistled for a foul on Luka, but there really was very little contact to warrant an actual foul on the play. That didn't stop Harrell from hopping up and yelling at Doncic, trying to get in his face. The two may have had a chance to start throwing punches had Morris not stepped in between them and kept them separated. Cameras went back and looked over the incident, and they caught Luka telling Harrell, "Stop flopping, big man," right after Harrell fell onto the ground. The arguing kept going on until the officials finally handed both of them a tech to try to shut him up. After the game, Doncic caught wind of the white boy comments that he never ended up hearing during the actual game. Harrell was ripped up on social media by other reporters, analysts, even coaches from around the league. So the very next game, Harrell went out of his way to go over and share a hug with Doncic, apologizing over what he said the previous matchup. Now, while the beef was settled for that series, I'm sure the anger towards one another is still very much alive. And that's something we'll just have to kind of wait and see. Similar to how we have to wait and see how the beef between Doncic and head coach Luke Walton will turn out. As many people probably know, the Sacramento Kings famously passed up on Doncic in the draft, opting to select Marvin Bagley second overall instead. Doncic always makes sure to give the Kings his best performances to show them that they made a mistake passing up on him, though he still loves the Mavericks just as much. During a game against the Kings, Doncic was filling up the stat sheet while leading his team to a massive double-digit victory. At one point, at the end of the third quarter, cameras caught Walton yelling, "Hey Luka, do me a favor, give him your autograph after the game. He's a fan of yours." Walton was referencing a specific referee who just so happened to whistle the most fouls against the Kings when Doncic drove to the basket. Luka ended up responding to Walton saying, "Don't do that." Later in the contest, Luka drilled a long three-pointer and made sure to stare down the Kings head man right after the shot. And the feud continued after the game as soon as reporters caught wind of the exchange. There were tons of questions about the situation directed to both Doncic and Walton. Luka said that Walton was yelling something about him that he wasn't a fan of, while Walton denied even saying anything at all.
You were exchanging some words with Luke Walton. You said on TV you said something you didn't like.
Nothing special.
From the coach?
Yeah, nothing special.
Okay. Seems unusual for the coach to say something.
Yeah, things happen.
He got what he wanted tonight, wherever he was. I wasn't saying anything to him. I don't know if he thought I said something to him. He had a great game. He's a great player. And, he led his team to victory. I got to give him credit.
However, Walton yelling things out towards Doncic wasn't nearly as expensive as the shove that cost Doncic and Marquise Chris thousands of dollars. When you hear about the fights involving Luka, there are very little of them that end up getting physical. Most of his altercations are verbal because he doesn't want to get himself ejected and can pretty much contain himself on the court. However, this fight was a completely different outcome than the rest, and it was against the Golden State Warriors. Luka got his shot swatted away by Chris right under the basket, and as the ball rolled out to another Dallas player, Chris sent some trash talk to the future superstar player. Another Dallas player immediately got a shot of his own up, but he missed as well, leaving the rebound to fall right into the hands of Chris under the basket. Luka attempted to steal the ball but missed, and Chris made sure to laugh at him right afterwards. He wasn't laughing for long though, because he turned around to dribble up court and lost the ball. Another Golden State player was able to recover the basketball and drive up court, but Chris and Doncic bumped into one another while going for the loose ball. The two got tangled up a little bit on the baseline, and Doncic sent a minor shove to Chris for some separation. Chris responded with a hard, two-handed shove that sent Luka sprawling onto the floor and into the cameramen who were sitting courtside. Luka sprung up and was furious over the shove, but he wasn't able to get close to Chris because of the people standing in between them trying to keep him separated. Neither player was ejected right then, and Chris was just hit with a standard technical foul call. But the league took matters into their own hands after the contest and hit Marquise with a $35,000 fine for the shove. Looking back on it, there's rarely ever been a shove that's cost a player that much money. It must be nice for these players to consider that pocket change. Finally, we have our last fight of the video, and unsurprisingly, the fight comes against a member of the Los Angeles Clippers. If I were the NBA, I would just try and keep Doncic as far away from the Clippers as possible because it seems like there's a fight almost every single game they play. This one was during a preseason contest when Luka accidentally picked up an offensive foul against the young Terrence Mann. While Doncic was confused and talking to the referees about the whistle, Mann chose to smack the ball out of Luka's hands and start walking away with it. Doncic started yelling at him and the two went nose to nose while arguing with one another. Eventually, they each sent very small bumps and shoves back to one another as people were running in to get them split up. Even though Doncic was considered a superstar in the making, Mann didn't seem to care, nor did he back down from him even a little bit. Luka had to be pushed back because if he were to get himself ejected, it would leave a massive hole for the Mavs in the contest. Mann didn't seem too fazed by the confrontation, and the commentators were proud that he stood his ground. Meanwhile, Luka had to be calmed down by a few other people on the court because he was visibly angry at the young guard for Los Angeles. Since this fight, they've each met up a few times in the postseason, and there's never been another major confrontation between the two guys. I guess they were able to find a little common ground despite getting caught up in the moment during that game. Want more fights? Then click on one of the videos that appears on your screen.